in this matchup. We are into picks and bans. Game 2 underway. See the Syndra once again taken away from Bjergsen. They don't want to give that to him. And this time around, Team SoloMid decide to ban the Kazakhs for themselves. Remember, yesterday Dexter did run that champion.
You can definitely see the TSM has a lot of respect for Dexter's Kazakhs. But honestly, there are so many strong junglers at this juncture. There's only so much you can ban away from. I feel like their third man is also going to have to be Soraka, unless they are willing to play against that Link Soraka that we saw yesterday.
So jungle and mid/support bans. Afromoose pulled out that Lulu. We see Council Logic Gaming have rounded out their bans. So Syndra, Evelyn, and LeBlanc. You've touched on the Soraka. The Jax is still up as well.
Yeah.
CLG first picked Jax yesterday as well. We'll see if they're going to do it today.
Easy right there for CLG. That's exactly their strategy. They don't need to necessarily adapt again because they haven't been losing. They've just been dominating every single one of their games so far in the playoffs.
Nien was so excited with that lock-in, he couldn't even sit in his seat. Was rolling back and forth. That was as close to an insta-lock as you can get. We do see Wild Turtle. He's locked in Lucian. His most played AD carry. Played 11 times this split. He's got 8 wins with it. And double duty because it denies it from double lift.
Who has been maining Lucian. Now, I do feel like Lucian is more of a luxury than a necessity as far as these AD carries are concerned, but double lift has been so damn proficient with it, it should at least take him down a small peg in efficiency.
6-0 in playoffs thus far is that Lucian. I want to highlight the Thresh as well, and the reason for that, Xpecial has played 3 champions and extreme amount this split. 9 games on Thresh, 9 games on Annie, 8 games on Leona. Every time he's veered from those 3, he's accrued losses. He's 0-2 with Karma, he's 0-1 with Morgana. So Xpecial's gone back to a comfort champion. We'll see if it has a more positive impact.
And these are these small tweaks that TSM is trying to make in between games to slightly counter their opposition right now. But a Nami actually comes in from CLG, wow.
So we've seen a few Namis in Europe.
Yeah.
Has picked up some play. Nif in particular is probably my most impressive Nami that we've seen over the course of playoffs. CLG still have the option to go for the globals if they want to. Have Nocturne, have Twisted Fate, have Jax, and have a tidal wave behind them. Maybe that's the way they want to go.
I don't think they're going to pick Twisted Fate until they know Bjergsen's assassins are off the board. It might be a little bit too dangerous for them, but the Nocturne has definitely been extremely effective for them. The Nami will give them a little bit of team move speed and a little bit of extra peel. Aphromoo actually trending towards squishy supports if he can't get Thresh. His Karma has been very strong, his Lulu's been good, and this Nami is no different.
Let's see what AD carry Council Logic Gaming want to lock in. Vayne Nami is a pretty powerful combo we've seen a few times. Team SoloMid taking their time on their next 2 bans. This could be a Feral Flare jungler for the odd one.
Yep.
If it does get locked in, it does look like he's going that route, and Dyrus sticking to his guns. He's got the Madman of Swan once again.
He is very committed to that heal teleport Dr. Mundo, but that's not going to go anywhere as far as shutting down Jax. And there is the Vayne right now. Ooh, classic CLG, it seems.
Yeah, a lot of, well, there's a lot of everything, I feel, on CLG's
very
side.
versatile comp.
Orianna was also banned out in both games against Coast yesterday. Coast removed Orianna from the table. They didn't want Link being on that champion. It is also one of his most played. He's super comfortable on Orianna.
His laning mechanics on Orianna are insanely good. And it's also good against any types of assassins that TSM will want to bring in here. Bjergsen waiting until the very last pick to try and get his counter, and he's going to go with Karma in the mid lane. Now, I had this discussion with a few people about why Lulu is strong in the mid lane and what else could fit that thing of AP scaling shields, a lot of team utility, but still some damage. And the only one that was close was the Karma.
The question is, in the semifinals when you've got no room for error, is this going to work? Council Logic Gaming have got a very strong dive-in combo. Jax, Nocturne, Orianna throw themselves at you. TSM, maybe peel and protect?
It's extremely similar to the team composition we saw Curse running in Game 3 yesterday against Dignitas, with the Mundo and the Xin Zhao that fly in, and then the mid laner to speed them up, support them, and supplement their damage. That's what Karma is going to be trying to do. But wow, Bjergsen on Karma, not what you expected to see.
No, not the slightest. And as the teams are loading on the Rift, I want you guys to head over to Twitter and vote for who you think will win, especially with his unique picks.
Yes, tweet your choice using hashtag CLGWin or TSMWin to @LOL eSports, and we will be periodically checking in to see where the vote stands.
It was 50-50 the last time.
Yeah.
It's gone all the way from 70-30 at the beginning of the day from our website vote. Keeping track, and I think, once again, lots of pressure on Bjergsen's shoulders.
Yeah, especially with this Karma pick. This has got to be the first Karma mid we've seen in North American LCS. We've seen a lot of it as support. It definitely doesn't have... So here's the things that Karma excels at in laning phase. Early on laning, she is an absolute bully and incredibly difficult to gank. The fact that she can mantra her Qs or any of her other spells right off the bat is absurdly powerful. But as you scale into late game, she doesn't have the ability to hit the backline with anything. So she completely relies on the rest of the team to do that, which puts a lot of pressure on Odd1 and Dyrus.
We'll need to see if they can pick up their game, because Odd1 and Dyrus were not the strongest in game one. We are on the Rift. Council Logic Gaming in the blue trunks taking on Team SoloMid in the red trunks. This is do or die for the fan favorites of TSM. Lose here and they don't place in the top two. Unheard of and unthinkable considering the acquisition of Bjergsen earlier in the split.
Yeah, this is just absolutely crazy that we have TSM of all teams pulling out the surprise pick. TSM is never the team to pull out the surprise pick because they're always so confident about their own individual ability to win matchups, and they make slight adjustments to beat other teams. I almost feel like they were beaten so handily in game one that they had to do something drastic. And that's why we see Karma.
We'll see if it works. So much pressure on their side. And there's the votes. All of a sudden, Council Logic Gaming are clawing themselves into the lead. And truthfully, you cannot fault anyone for voting that way, based off game one.
No, CLG holds the momentum here. They also hold blue side. Doublelift also wields Vayne right now. As legendary as his Vayne has been, he's the only North American AD carry to play Vayne this year. He's 5-2 on it as well, drawing multiple bans. And it's a role reversal as far as these two teams go. CLG are the ones that are keeping their strategies similar and going with their comfort picks as the other team tries to catch up and adapt to them. It's always been different in these matchups.
One thing I'm noticing, Council Logic Gaming setting themselves up exactly the same way they did against Coast in game 2 yesterday, using Aframu as the bait.
But this time they walked through the ward.
Yesterday, Coast were the ones invading and they were the ones that gave up the flashes, and CLG going for an invade. Previous game, they went for their own blue. This time round, they want to get in TSM's faces. Maybe the choice of jungle or the composition has something to do with it. Maybe it's just trying a different strat.
Well, the opportunity for counterplay exists right here. Dyrus immediately trying to get the red steal. It is a bold move by TSM. They're the ones taking a lot of risk in this game, trying to get 3 of 4 buffs away from Dexter. With the way things are trending right now, Dyrus should be able to clean this one out and then escape unscathed. But man, what a risky strategy there by Dyrus.
Very smart, probably very well read.
The red.
You highlighted the fact that Council Logic Gaming walked across that TSM ward. And that vision probably gave them the information they needed to get away. So TSM, small advantage in the early game. They're going to slow down Dexter's jungle just a tad.
Yeah, Dexter actually not even going for any fanciness right now. This is so fascinating because once again, TSM is focusing on blue buffs and red buffs, but COG is focusing on turret pushes. Dexter didn't even look at his own red buff. He immediately went down to this bottom lane, and look how far ahead COG is with the turret pushing right now. They've killed the bottom lane turret before TSM has even started on the top lane one.
TSM still sticking in the jungle. Odd1 and Dyrus taking away the wolf camp before they finally look to be making a move. Now, it's a very big minion wave on that top turret. We'll see how quickly they can take it down. Once Xin Zhao and Mundo get to the tower, it will go quickly.
This is either a 3-for-2 turret trade or a 2-for-1 turret trade. There is no way, in my opinion, that TSM gets out of this one even, just because of how far behind they were at the beginning. They're a full turret behind at pushing power.
TSM, are they going to recall? Dyrus first one to... There's a couple of recall animations there. It looks like only Wild Turtle probably going to stick around. And as you've talked about, 2-for-1. Tower hasn't even dropped yet.
Yeah, they're just going to try and deny as many minions, make the best of a bad situation, because they were completely outpushed in this because of their wanting to get the jungle buffs. We will now get to see later when this pays off. Once they get this turret, the gold lead's only going to be 1 turret worth of gold. So, if he gets it. Yeah, there we go. So you can see a 500 gold difference right now. Dexter may fall behind in experience because when he goes back to his jungle, a lot of it is going to be missing. That would be the only gain that TSM can get out of this maneuver. Overall, though, I feel like CLG outplayed them.
Slight delay on those paranoia ganks from Dexter. You have to question, is TSM still sticking to buff control? It feels like that's a couple patches ago as far as the jungle meta is concerned.
Yeah.
When it was so game-changing. Right now, Dexter going to be working himself towards that Wriggles Lantern.
Is he going to find... Ooh, that would have been bad. Dexter getting out of there with a few seconds to spare.
Slow start. Once those towers have fallen, we'll keep an eye on Dexter and his levels. He actually does have a tiny advantage over the Odd One. He has already hit the level 4. Odd One's finally moved his way into his own jungle and clearly camps out. Lane swaps. Oh, Turtle's in trouble.
Oh, he might have to burn something. Nice move there.
Does get condemned into the wall. They go for the tower. Dark gets knocked up in the air. First blood is not yet. We do see the summoner heal. Tower aggro gets flicked. And Nintonso gets out alive. That was a little risky, but CLG made it work. Big
move right there. Because Nien flashed while the turret was still reacquiring targets, that's how he lost aggro right there. So a slick timing move by Nien and a well-executed dive. It seemed like Turtle had slickly escaped, but TSM was a little bit better at the execution. Counter Logic Gaming managed to grab themselves the early tower lead. They grabbed themselves first blood, and with this next minion wave, if they stick around, is the potential of grabbing the top outer turret, but there's some defense now. Odd One forced to leave his own jungle, and Nintonso's got a big wave of minions to farm, so very strong start to game 2 here by CLG. CLG has just been so smooth at managing these creep waves and playing the rotation game. It's all they have been focusing on for the past 2 months, really since Dexter got here, and they've just gotten better and better at it as the season progresses, and it seems like TSM is just a few steps behind them right now. Definitely feels like the game meta has shifted towards the playstyle that CLG has been attempting to perfect. And in all of the games that we've seen this weekend, I really feel like their opening few minutes have just been next to flawless. They planned them so well. And then they adapt to what the other team does right there. The move that Dyrus pulled would have caught most teams completely off guard and set the enemy jungler incredibly far behind. But CLG actually turned it into their advantage as Dexter went immediately 1 buff to a turret push. That's not something that TSM predicted. As far as the experience and the levels are concerned, the Odd One about halfway through level 4, getting closer to that level 5, and it's actually Dexter that's hit level 5 first. Yeah. So even though his jungle was severely invaded and controlled, he's done a very good job of getting himself the levels, getting closer to that paranoia, and if he has the same sorts of aggressive engages from the previous game, combo that with a shockwave, yeah, TSM are in trouble. They're going to have pretty good dive buddies with Jax and Nocturne, and we have to keep track of Nien's Jax as well. He insta-locked it. It's a new champion he's kind of added to his pool for the playoffs, and it's working fantastically for him. Remember, Saint and Kobe were talking in the pregame about his ability to get split push farm and how critical that is, but now Link comes up. Wild Turtle, remember, has no flash. No condemn, grabs the lantern, shockwave is flashed by. That was close. That was close. Well, X Special burned his flash right there. That was a really slick escape by TSM to avoid that shockwave from Link. Either way, they burn a lot from that one. Let's see if Bjergsen can take down Dexter. Here's that Karma. Surprise from Dexter, burning a flash. Nice move. Good damage from Bjergsen. Only got that Chalice built up, so not the greatest amount of ability power. Forcing Dexter to blow that summoner spell, so if they can catch him out of position again, or if he overcommits, maybe TSM can get a point on the board. Bjergsen's playing very aggressive against CLG this game. Yeah, Bjergsen is trying to be that lane Karma. This is where Karma is absolutely at her strongest. He will win lane. A player as good as Bjergsen will execute everything he needs to do on Karma to beat up on people. But it's just the lane advantage. The rest of the team needs to be stronger for when Karma can transition. 14 CS advantage in favor of Bjergsen in that mid lane as we move to the top. Poor minion gets hooked, gets dropped down. Another roam from Nintonso, so there's not many towers to push in that bottom lane, so he's just trying to take advantage as well. Yeah, I really do just have to point out how great that escape was by TSM. When X Special had Turtle going on the Thresh Lantern a few seconds ago, he flashed as he saw the shockwave and actually saved both of them from getting hit by the shockwave. It would have been a kill onto Wild Turtle, 100%. So very well played, and that's what we talked about in our pregame, just how X Special has the ability. That was one of the flashier moves he's pulled off. Yeah. TSM, another aggressive invade, really making it very clear. They're getting the buff steals. Yeah. Absolutely. It is their control, it is their prerogative, but is that enough? It did not work for them in game 1. They are down in turrets here in game 2, but this time they have a stronger mid lane presence. So if CLG tries to make a counter push anywhere off the buff invades, they can't necessarily do that because Karma is keeping such great control of the middle lane.
And all things considered, CLG have less towers at this point in the game than they did previously.
Yep.
So TSM have slowed down Counter Logic Gaming's pushes. And the Entanso just freezing this lane up, farming himself.
That's the thing about slowing down a team with Jax, though. With Shyvana, he wanted to shove up and push as much as possible. But with Jax, he doesn't have to worry about late game scaling falling short. He's Jax, and he has an Orianna to back him up.
We'll see if he can get to that point. Yesterday, it felt like once Jax hit a split push power, Trinity Force and Blade, it was like, well, game's pretty much done. We'll have to see if Nirtanso can get to that same point. Extended laning phase just broke past the 10-minute mark. 1,000 gold separates these teams. And no one's made any sort of move for Dragon yet. We do have 2 Wriggles-based junglers, so we'll need to see who opts towards that objective earlier.
We need to keep our Feral Flare watch on both of these guys. There is 13 towards the Feral Flare for Dexter. And as far as the odd one goes, he's going to be buying his Feral Flare any second. And he has, I'll get you that 1 sec. Oh, actually, Dragon coming out.
So Dragon has been started and secured by CLG. Just as we highlighted, just as we talk about Dragon, that was almost snuck away, I think.
It absolutely was right there. They saw TSM had backed away. They realized that since TSM had just picked up the double blue buffs, a lot of times they would want to shop after that one. And it was just another rotational edge picked up by CLG. Now can they get to the mid lane in time? This is a force by TSM, and immediately CLG goes in once again.
So there's Dexter going forward. Wild Turtle forced, he's condemned into the wall. Now TSM seem to be peeling. The bubble doesn't connect with anyone. An odd one dashes in, knocks them away. Wild Turtle stunned up. The shockwave pulls him back in. Another kill on the board for Counter Logic Gaming. Special is way out of position. 2 kills secured for CLG thus far. And Dyrus, Wild Turtle, and Bjergsen trying to find somebody, trying to find a target. Nobody goes down on the side of CLG.
One thing about this TSM team composition is their finishing power is very low. Yes, Bjergsen can get a lot of people pushed back and can peel well, but he has no backline pressure. There is no assassination threat. So when everyone on CLG got low, they flashed out of the fight. They got shielded by Orianna. They got healed by Nami. Let's watch this initiation one more time. The tidal wave has such long range. It actually knocked Turtle out of the lantern with that quick knockup, which took him out of the fight a little bit. When the bubble missed, it kind of meant game on, but notice CLG's in a turret, so TSM can't dive on them, and they have no finishing power. A great monitored Q hit onto CLG, but there's no one there to follow up to get into the backline of CLG and to destroy them. So it's just 2 more kills for the CLG team.
Counter Logic Gaming defend their tower, grab themselves kills, and extend their gold lead to 3,000 gold right now. Double Lift farming himself up, sitting a little bit behind Wild Turtle. That'll be evened up shortly. 3 assists on the board. And almost got that Blade of the Ruined King. You're going to have a split pusher in Jax and a split pusher in Vayne. That's a scary position to be in if you're Team SoloMid, with nobody that can deal with one of them, let alone both.
Double Lift was one of the first AD carries to identify that Vayne, despite being quite good in the late game, wasn't all about just reaching late game. It was about being a duelist threat that no one could handle, especially against a Dr. Mundo, who generally likes to stack health. The Blade of the Ruined King with Vayne's Silver Bolts can wreck Dyrus if he tries to become a split push threat. And CLG is kind of just having plans for all of the ways that TSM could win the game, trying to stop them before they become a thing.
CLG grab themselves a tower in the top lane uncontested. You see TSM grouping towards this bottom tower, but it's somewhat half-hearted. Odd one hanging around in that tri-bush. Not even going to get onto the tower. TSM yet to touch a tower since that early trade. I lied, because Bjergsen's on the mid lane.
Yeah, he's pushing in Link quite heavily. And it'll yet to be seen whether this Karma can really come out big, because he's winning the lane, which is what he is supposed to do on Karma. The question is, how can he impact the rest of the game? One of the things I thought about when I thought about this matchup coming up is Bjergsen is the star of TSM, whereas Link is a great mid laner, but he's not expected to do crazy things. CLG wins as a team. So if Link can neutralize Bjergsen, CLG generally wins. And that's what he's been able to do so far this series.
Bjergsen's still looking for an opportunity. He hasn't done a whole lot outside of it, beating Link with CS. And when you consider TSM are 4,000 gold down, that window of opportunity, that window of power that Karma has over Orianna is dwindling, if not gone already.
It's going to be a very tough road back here for TSM. They have to be really struggling with themselves right now. You can see Darius is just in farm mode. He doesn't necessarily know what to do. No one on this team has huge playmaking ability. Bjergsen can't solo someone like he could if he was playing Zed or the Blanc or make those crazy plays. He needs to be with the team. He needs to fight extended team fights. He needs to kite people back. You need a lot more practice than 2 weeks of scrims to be able to pull off a strategy like that in the semifinals against a team as practiced as CLG. Maybe Bjergsen can pull it off, but it hasn't looked great so far.
That's definitely not the case. Nyantonso playing very aggressive. He was alone in TSM's jungle. It seems like CLG have set their sights on this mid-outer turret. Just as quickly as they grouped up, they begin to dissipate, but teleport a couple of seconds away there for Nyantonso. They do have paranoia for Dexter. In the end, jumps on Darius. A little bit of a trade.
Be a little bit careful.
Going back and forth.
Doesn't have his attack speed passive built up yet, so Darius can get a little aggressive.
Oh, missed the homework. Threw the briefcase out. Ran a little wide. So Nyantonso gets away. Team SoloMid just going to be content to play this slow game. They were punished the first time they made a play in the mid lane, and now they seem to be out of sorts. Rumble catches onto Wild Turtle, and you see Dexter just waiting. Not sure if he was spotted, but I think that he was. So not going to go for any sort of engages, and just continuing to play the map. Counterlogic Gaming taking small advantages here and there and everywhere.
Absolutely. I mean, Dexter is 1 stack away from transforming his Feral Flare. Odd One is actually 10 away from stacking his Feral Flare, which isn't necessarily the fault of Odd One for being behind, it's just the way the matchup plays. Xin Zhao is a much slower jungle farmer than Nocturne is, and it's more about his early game ganks. And since Odd One's been all about blue buff control, he spent a lot more time running around the map as opposed to farming. Whereas Dexter is, once again, keeping the farm up, and he's going to be much stronger very soon.
Dexter, his initiations in the previous game really impressed me. The timing, and this game already, the one big fight we've had was just CLG resting on a hair trigger and not hesitating. Now that early CS advantage Bjergsen had built up has now melted away. It's less than 5, and Link's doing very good.
CLG, I feel like, has just made a pretty big mistake, though. They have double lift in the top lane while the Dragon is spawned, so they don't have the teleport threat to come in whereas Darius does. And this would have to be a steal attempt, but it would be nearly suicide. He tried to steal with his Q. Nice objective control by TSM. They needed that so badly.
I think he tried to hope for the best. That was the least steely steal we've seen. So TSM grab a Dragon and close some of that gold gap, but it's not enough. There's still 2 towers down. CS-wise across the board, thanks to Odd One being behind, CLG just doing a pretty good job. They're controlling the tempo of the map.
What just happened right there was actually pretty substantial. Link was in range for those minions in mid lane, or at least Dexter could have frozen it, but Dexter completely took them because they know how strong Dexter wants to be when he goes into team fights. One of the rare occurrences where you see a team actually give the jungle to the farm to the jungle when they have the option of giving it to the mid laner. They might look for a dive shortly.
All of a sudden, teleport is available for Nien, and it looks like CLG have grouped up. Dexter just waiting in the wings. He's got the paranoia to join at a moment's notice. And it feels like Counterlogic Gaming are building up. They're looking for a window to jump onto Team SoloMid. Darius does have teleport as well.
And to be fair, TSM is just trying to turtle at this point. Since they've lost map control, they can't even go for their buff steals. They're just hoping that CLG overcommits somewhere. This is one chance.
Well, we'll see if they can get Darius. Darius is being melted. Summoner heal has been blown. Sadism is up. He continues to heal through everything. No more crowd control. Means Darius gets away. He's going to regen a good chunk of the damage dealt. So, attempt by CLG being thwarted. Odd One not going to get in range. Doesn't get the knock-up. And CLG back away.
Yeah, but they still pushed the rest of TSM back across the board. When they pushed Darius back, he drew help, and TSM couldn't rotate elsewhere because the lane pressure is map-wide right now for CLG. It allows Dexter to go back into the jungle and get more of those Feral Flare stacks building up.
So Odd One maxed out that Audacious Charge, got the big slow. Nien's jumped onto Bjergsen, stunned him up, and we do see Bjergsen has rooted Nien behind the tower. Tower gets dropped, and that's actually a flash from Nien that maybe wasn't necessary. Tower went down.
Just being safe at the time. He also has the largest killing spree on CLG. Doesn't want to give that back to Bjergsen. Once again, kind of illustrates how Karma can be very strong if you have finishers on your team, of which TSM doesn't necessarily have it.
See Bjergsen once again throwing out those inner flames, mentoring them up. Still working towards some more ability power. We'll see how effective Bjergsen becomes once there are multiple members diving him. His root, of course, on a single target. So we can opt to get one, either Jax or Nocturne. The rest of TSM will need to ensure their targeting is superior to the previous game.
That was the 19th stack on the Wriggles for Yadwin. He's almost at the Pharaoh Flare, whereas Dexter is already transformed it. He's got 4 fresh stacks on his Pharaoh Flare, so he's got 9 camps ahead of Odd One in jungler item power, which will have an impact later on in the game, especially as Dexter builds up more lifesteal. If he dives in and gets a lot of shields and heals on top of him, he'll turn himself into a bit of a drain tank, where he just heals more than the other team can damage him.
Pretty significant advantage when you consider the focus Team SoloMid has placed on those jungle buffs. Stealing them away, of course,
Didn't
meaning
necessarily help.
not optimal farming, not optimal stacking. And CLG, they also seem pretty content to play this slower game. I mean, they've got map control, they've got more towers, and you feel like every time CLG concertedly focuses a tower, they actually secure it.
Yes. They've taken 4 to 1. TSM's only turret was at the very start, the one that was given to them in a negative trade. That just goes to show you how weak their lane presence has been. Bjergsen's about one breath away from taking that mid turret, but it would still mean all of TSM group up in the mid lane, which they're a little hesitant to do. Because if we think back to game 1 of this series, oh dear.
Oh, manages to catch out the odd one. That's instant ultimate.
Yeah, and if we think back to game 1 of the series, when TSM played their hand and showed their intentions to CLG, CLG immediately punished them. So right now, TSM is trying to play as neutral or as unassuming as possible and just hope that CLG doesn't know what to do next. It's not necessarily working out for them.
You don't even need to go all that way back. Mid lane push, 5-6 minutes ago, TSM were punished. They were grouped up, and all of that AoE from CLG just worked in their favor. So Doublelift has overtaken Wild Turtle and Farm, got a minor advantage. When you consider he was down for a small period of time, nobody's moved up there to even really challenge him. It feels like Doublelift just keeps pushing that wave into the tower, and Wild Turtle in the tower clean it up, and then Doublelift just rinses and repeats.
Nice ward by X Special right there. Perfectly timed. CLG has immense 2-man Baron threat with Dexter and Yen, and they just went for it at the moment that X Special thought they would, and that ward completely saved a Baron for TSM. 2
Blades of the Ruined King along with that Feral Flare. TSM is on overdrive now as far as Vision's concerned. They need to always have control of that pit. Cannot allow Jax and Nocturne to grab themselves that uncontested Baron. We'll see how CLG continues to play. They tried, didn't work this time, but there are many more attempts where they can.
They're thinking about a flank right here. Even though they do not have Vayne in position, they know Wild Turtle isn't there either. They might think about a 4v4. This is where TSM shows that they're going into the mid lane. It would be a tidal wave from the side, and then Nocturne and the Jax from the other if TSM groups up in mid.
We do see Dyrus getting so close to 2 members of Council Logic Gaming, moving through the river, backed away. Doublelift has already left that top lane, begun to move closer to the rest of his team. If Wild Turtle sticks around in the top lane, they're going to go in. That's a paranoia. We do see the tidal wave going down. There's a few members of CLG knocked back, but that was a very good counter-strike. They've hooked onto Nian. Team SoloMid grabbed the first kill as CLG overcommit. That was a great hook from X Special. It's not over yet as Team SoloMid continue to chase down. Bjergsen's going to try and poke out CLG as best as he can. They've jumped in. The odd one gets shockwave back. That's another hook. Doublelift held in place. They haven't dropped him out just yet as finally Wild Turtle arrives. Better later than never, they always say. Culling is available. Summon a heal. Not actually used. That was just a heal there from onto X Special rather. Team SoloMid back away. That was scary. That was 4v4 and a little bit scary.
Very close fight. I mean, the team fight extended power of Bjergsen's Karma. If the team does dive into him, he's very good at keeping people alive. CLG, without hesitation, though, because of the lifesteal they hold, tries to go onto this dragon. It's very tough for TSM to stop this one, but they're going to try.
They're going to go in. They're not stolen away. Dexter manages to secure the double bubble, throws up TSM. Dexter caught in place. He gets cold. Wild Turtle finally in the fight, gets on the board. 1-1, but the dragon went to CLG. Net gain, Council Logic Gaming.
And now we're seeing, though, why TSM has been holding back in this game. They do not have initiation tools, but they have exceptional healing abilities. CLG tried to dive in with Dexter and then Yen, and they actually got punished for it initially. It was only due to the extended nature of that fight that they could get a dragon. When you trade back a turret, that was actually a very positive exchange for Team SoloMid.
And they've held onto that same gold difference for over 12 minutes, where it was terrifyingly large, in the early game. Now, 4,000 becomes less and less significant as teams are itemizing and getting leveled up. You have to question, had Wild Turtle been there earlier, how different could that have gone? Of course, that is the benefit of hindsight. You're able to ask those questions.
Doublelift going a bit strange with his build. Infinity Edge after Blade of the Ruin King. He's definitely hyper aware of the late game in this one. He's going to be going for a full 4 offensive items, and he's just going for it right now.
Considering the slower pace of the game, you can't fault him, I suppose.
Yeah.
TSM haven't really tried to grab the reins back, dealing with this bucking bronco of Counter Logic Gaming. And CLG still in a pretty commanding position. TSM got the first tower that they've secured since the opening 3 minutes of the game, and making no further moves to aggress into CLG's territory.
Yeah. At this point, TSM's kind of playing the support the giant Mundo game right now. And it's going to be about whether Doublelift can get strong enough to kill through it. The power of Bjergsen shields, added with the spammability of X Special shields, actually, once he finishes his Face of the Mountain with the Thresh just being there, is rather substantial.
I do have one concern, though. That is a frontline Dr. Mundo against 3 Blades of the Ruin King.
Yeah.
You know,
that could ruin you.
That is a scary time, and Counter Logic Gaming now in the lead as far as the Twitter poll is concerned. Hashtag CLG win, hashtag TSM win, if you still want to vote. TSM not out of it yet. They're still fighting.
Absolutely not, and their backs are against the wall, but they're fighting right now. They went so much different than their regular style here with that Karma in the mid lane. As they say, supportive mid laner here. It is somewhat similar to the Lulu, but it's definitely a bold move.
I'd like to point out that Feral Flare was completed by the Odd One.
That's huge.
Mere moments ago.
Yeah.
He's got 0 stacks on it yet in comparison to the 11 from Dexter, but he can finally begin scaling. He's finally got that additional damage and that on-hit life gain.
Mm-hmm. And aside from the shockwave from Link, a lot of COG's damage is very focused and single target. So the more people on TSM that can take up individually, the more difficult it's going to be for COG to chase them down and wrap them up in team fights. That red buff, ooh,
very brave.
Not to chase.
Bjergsen was moving past those double golems, did not manage to get in range. It'll be difficult getting through that tidal wave, but Wild Turtle playing a bit aggressively. He seems to be on the same page as Xpecial a little bit more this series than we've seen from him in Super Week, and right now,
yep,
Team SoloMid afraid of a Baron move.
The game has gotten so tense here. COG has a lot of Baron threat because Nocturne and Vayne or Nocturne and Jax could easily 2-man it. They could kill it extremely quickly. Yet, that makes the game very dicey because it would be people getting low. It would be a potential steal. In fact, Darius. Oh no!
That was interesting.
He put the ward too close to the wall, so he couldn't jump over it right there.
Dyrus does have his summoners, does know Nintonso's low on mana. That's a flash hook. They've caught Link! Link's gonna get rooted down. He is deleted as Team SoloMid
Dexter goes in.
to peel. Dexter goes in with paranoia. He's scared them away. Doublelift, you are a lone man. You need your team. Condemns Wild Turtle against the wall. It's not gonna matter. That's a great flash before the inner flame. It's not over yet. Nintonso's got no mana. Dyrus has summoned a heal. Does he need it? Yes, he does. Team SoloMid get 3 kills and they're back in the game.
And this means they can Baron as well. It's going to completely neutralize the game right there. Everything just broke for CLG. TSM's hold worked for the most part. 28 minutes in, the one person who can make the catch and make the play for TSM was Xpecial, and he did that. Such a clutch performer this game. That just meant that the rest of CLG was overcommitted. They tried to go in, but they were split up. They managed to find a hole over the wall. Bjergsen gets another kill, and TSM pulled themselves even in this game.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say I feel that was the first positional mistake Counter Logic Gaming have made. They were split up, they were a little bit out of position, and TSM didn't hesitate. They found some picks and they ran them down. I'm not 100% sure, but you have to admit they were sort of spread out around that Baron area.
They absolutely were. Well, you could see for 15 minutes, COG had 4 turrets down, and they weren't able to make a positive move. They had a lot of split pushing by Doublelift, a lot of split pushing by Nyen, who has not been able to outscale Dyrus, as we saw there. And they did try that one initiation in the mid lane, which was repelled. They couldn't find the initiation on a TSM. Now TSM's got that Baron and a big, tanky Dyrus on Mundo.
There is no paranoia available, so if Dexter needs to join the fight, he's got to be on the front line. There's good wave clear from CLG, and they've just melted those minions. So TSM, Dyrus to face tank it just a little.
Yeah, they're already landed a little bit of poke on a COG, and this is something they did not allow themselves to get caught into in game one. Every time TSM would siege, they'd initiate immediately, but they do not have the same level of initiation they had in the last game. TSM has even better peel, plus that Baron buff to dissuade them from initiating. This turret is gone.
Look at that damage from Bjergsen. Mantra in a flame, just melting through. He's got his death cap completed. Got another Void Staff, Blasting Wand rather, in his back pocket. And TSM grabbed the third tower of the game.
And they get to take a dragon off this one. If we think way back, remember that small dragon that TSM was able to sneak when they were down 5,000 or 6,000 gold? That was really important as far as the overall flow of the game goes, because it just allowed them to hold longer. It kept their gold close enough that they could stay in this one. Now they have the items that they've really been waiting to go and get. This has turned into a fantastic game, Quickshot.
We need to see how Council Logic reply. CLG have got two incredibly powerful split pushes. So my biggest concern for Team SoloMid is how do they handle the potential of a 4-1 or a 1-3-1 map play, and we'll need to see if TSM can force engages, maybe even push CLG back. I suppose if you keep CLG on their towers, they're never going to be allowed to split push. But it is a tough ask for TSM, who didn't look all that great at the map play in game one of the series.
No, they've slowly kind of found their bearings in this game against CLG, and they're got to be feeling a lot more confident right now. CLG, while they have very good strategies in their games that they win, and they win a lot of very quick games, CLG actually went from the summer split of 2013 being the slowest team in North America to being the fastest team in North America here. But when games go long, they don't necessarily know what to do.
Oh, Nian's in trouble. Can he get away? Counter-strikes up. He's going to get slowed. He's eaten the briefcase, and Team SoloMid have found a crucial pick onto CLG.
And that's exactly where Nian doesn't need to be right now. He doesn't need to be out that far when TSM is roaming his 5 without map vision, and there's no Vayne near you right now. TSM gonna power through, gonna maybe get this inhibitor.
Double lift is started to recall. He's going to be here late. The bubble does not connect with anybody. Team SoloMid get an inhibitor zone. That's a dash in. They've caught onto Dexter. He hasn't been knocked up into the air though. That looks like a paranoia has been used. Vision being denied. Inhibitor will be secured, and Dexter opts to not go in. Team SoloMid have got super minions.
Going in could have just been the end of the game right there, but look how tanky Dyrus is right now. They're going to try and get this turret too, because they know how low the rest of CLG is. 2 inhibitors could be the game.
CLG hasn't even looked for an initiation. Tidal Wave is available. It does get thrown down. Dyrus turns into a surfer, but it's too late. As super minions are through both of the lanes. That's a knockup now from Odd1. Dyrus gets pulled back. If Dyrus is the only victim, this will be a win for TSM. That's a great play! X-Special flashes forward. The culling gets thrown down, and Dexter eats most of the hits. He's the first victim in CLG as Nian has respawned. He's back in the fight. He's taken Mundo down. This is turning messy. Bjergsen's got a double kill. Link forced away. That's a triple kill for Bjergsen. That's a quadra kill for Bjergsen. He's looking for the penta. Can he get it? That's the question. Bjergsen leaves one more hit. That's a penta kill! Bjergsen grabs 5. He puts TSM into a deciding game. Team SoloMid have beaten Council Logic Gaming.
Not only does Bjergsen pull out Karma with their backs against the wall, he closes the game out with a pentakill. Are you kidding me? That's why he's the MVP of the North American LCS.
Fantastic team fight from Team SoloMid. Baron has worn off in less than 4 minutes. TSM went from being on the brink of elimination to taking Nexus turrets down and backing away.
So the game's actually not quite over. But oh man, TSM took pretty much every advantage right there. They could not finish because of the Dexter respawn. Got to take another look at that fight, because there's now a 6-0 for Bjergsen after all of that one. Again, it was just TSM never letting CLG find the right type of fight. What moves by TSM as a whole to come back in this game with their backs against the wall?
And we talked about Karma. We talked how is Karma going to work, and talk us through this.
Well, right here, there's no Jax even at the start of the fight, so TSM has this huge edge coming in. They only get the shockwave onto Dyrus, and then something interesting happens in this fight. CLG actually tunnels onto Dyrus. Nian and Doublelift, because they get him a little low, overcommit, which is exactly what Karma wants. Karma wants the team to come to her, and then she can finish things off. Nian dive in, Doublelift gets a little low. That one Mantra Q just obliterates the squishies on CLG. Low cooldown gets that one. He starts the W tether and Aphromoo. And then I'm curious about this one, because I think they were trying to give him the pentakill. Now, he had a dodge on anyway. That would have been fine. He gets the pentakill legitimately. It has to be legitimate.
It has to be legitimate in the semifinals when your back's against the wall. the European import, grabbing the pentakill. Now, Team SoloMid, they are sieging up this bottom half of the map. They're onto the turret. Superman is nowhere near the base yet, so CLG have got some time. Tidal waves up.
Initiation, but that Mantra Q just shut down CLG's backline.
Such a desperate play. TSM are tightly knit. That's a very big group. The Randian Zoman throws out. Nintonsu is down. The front line of CLG has been melted. Double lift the next target. He is dropped. Team SoloMid now have the numbers, now have the members. There are no towers standing for CLG, and they're going to turn their focus to the Nexus.
And they can just face tank up this last Nexus turret, even if the minions haven't arrived. What a comeback win by TSM. Only took them 35 minutes, but that is also a statement game by them.
Only 35. That was one of the most dramatic 35 minutes. Special. That's a stern, serious look. Very serious look indeed. Congratulations to TSM. They've evened out the series. We are going to a deciding game.
TSM was extremely close to being knocked out of contention for the Spring Split Championship. But oh man, that means we're going to game 3. We got to see a Karma pentakill from Bjergsen. That's surprising.